Hello, welcome back. This is ProTailDev. This is the 6th day of the Harvest Mouse Game Jam. Let's get straight into it. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to work on today, for the 6th day is the player score. So I wanted the player to actually have a score throughout the level. So what I've just done here is I've just made a bunch of integers and a bunch of text so that I can see it in the UI. And then I need to get a reference to different scripts and add to that score, add to that integer. So just getting references, it's pretty much the same thing everywhere, from the wave system to tree health, move to attack scripts. I'm just going to get information from those scripts and just add to the integers from our player score. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going into different scripts like the wave system and just adding to that integer after getting a reference to that the player score script. And then the reason I did it this way is because I wanted there to be lots and lots of different stats that the player can kind of improve on and try and see if they're doing better. I'm just commenting, putting done next to each integer when I've sorted them out in each script. So as you can see, I'm just adding them all. I'm just making sure it's very, very straightforward. Just adding to an integer every time something has been done. I did lots of different stats, like the player spirit tree and the normal stages completed. The amount of jumps I think I do in the end, and the amount of falls, like falling off objects and hitting the border, which I don't think I've implemented yet. I think it's somewhere in this video. So what I'm doing here as well is I'm making a final score where it adds all of the score together, and minuses like kind of the penalties, so how many jumps you do and how many mistakes you'll make. And then I add in the end collision box. I very quickly make a prefab of the fireflies, and then I put them on all the different islands as well, and they'll activate later when you unlock each tree. So what I'm also doing is having an end score like zone, so the player, when they collide with that, it will bring up a screen where it'll have all the stats. But just for the sake of testing, I create a UI that would be on the screen while I'm playing. That will eventually be moved off into the end score. Like, this UI won't turn on only when you go into that collision, but for now it's going to be on screen permanently. Sorry, not permanently, temporarily. Complete opposite. Then I also create a bit of organising, so I create some effects and put all the fireflies in there, and then any kind of scenery I move into their own game objects just to make things neater. And then I assign all the different text so that I can test it out, and as you can see, I'm testing it and it's working. I'm actually getting all of the different information, like total jumps, tree growth. I'm getting all the different information, how many waves I completed while running. And then after that was done, I added some checkpoints. So the big thing I wanted was, it would be very frustrating for the player to fall off the level and then end up right back at the beginning. So instead of reloading the level, I wanted checkpoints. This was very easily done. So at first I did this code in the tree manager by simply getting the game objects, and every time they hit an object that had the tag border, the player would reset to that checkpoint. And I just quickly named them because I realized there was a problem with the naming of it. And then what I did was I actually changed it. I moved it into the player movement script because it made more sense, since it was changing the position of the player directly. And I determined that depending on which stage the tree was at, so which tree had been completed, would determine which checkpoint is active. All I do is find the objects and then reassign a specific variable object to a new checkpoint position. Very, very straightforward. And then what I also did was I added in a bit of code to determine if a tree was null or not. So if it's not null, so there is one, it's found and it's active, then do a specific code. If it is null and there is no trees active, make sure there's no enemies that are active. So destroy the enemies. And then I also added in another collision which this would basically add the delay of destroying the enemy whenever the shot is hits an enemy. It would destroy him. I also made sure to activate the end portal and to deactivate it when the level starts, so that when the player gets to the very end and complete the final tree, then the end portal should be active and you can move on to another level, or you could, or it'll bring up the stats. So here we go. I'm just putting in a temporary level, a scene in the scene manager, so that I had to comment it out because I haven't got a second level yet. And then what I also wanted to do was have a grow animation for the tree using the scale. So all I did was put in specific floats with a specific time, and then determine that time. I skip ahead a little bit, but basically all I'm doing is changing the scale over a specific time that I've set in the inspector, and then gradually over time it'll grow. And I did this for the spirit tree first, so as you can see it growing there. I did it for the spirit tree first and for the seedling, and then once I found that it worked and it was the right scale, so I changed the scale there, bit of testing, and then move on and start adding a bunch of the same code for all the other different stages of the tree. So for the sapling, the old sapling, the young adult, and the adult. I believe that's correct. So I also make sure to destroy the clone only once, because we don't need to repeat that. You know, if there's no clone, there's no point in trying to constantly delete it. I also mess around a long time with the scales to try and make the animation as seamless as possible. And here we go, I'm just testing it here, see what it looks like. And I'm just changing the variable, the integer on the right, for each tree, just to see where the tree's growth is and how big it is. And also just to make sure that it's all working. And then I test it. I apply the exact same code in the tree health for the different stages of our tree. Normal tree, the charging tree that I call it. And as you can see, it works. I think it works very well. It looks quite interesting, quite nice. Then I move on to quickly adding some lights onto the spirit shot, just to make it glow a little bit more in this darker environment. That was a very, very short video. And that's because today was, even though it was long, there was a large amount of time of just testing the scaling, you know, kind of deciding what I was doing for it, and kind of doing different things. Especially with the player score, I ended up adding a couple more score as well, like a little bit later, like I said, for the falls and things. And I didn't really know how to approach some of the stuff in this video. Especially the growth. I was going to actually use the animator and do some proper animation, but I realized that it would just probably be quicker for me to just code it and maybe a little bit more robust. But there you go, so that was day 6. Yeah, stick around for day 7. See you next time.